Everyone, welcome back to RJK English. So I've I've been doing some work, and today I want to do a couple things. One, I want to talk about something in general, which is a new book that I found, and I want to talk in general about kind of an anthropological approach. Two, I want to go over the consonants and vowels as I have them now, and I have a call out for help from any Kashmiri speakers, especially if you'd like to come on video with me through Zoom. I'll post it. If you don't want to do that, you could just meet with me by Zoom off video. I could give your name or, shout out your page or whatever's needed. But I need to get these down. And then we'll look at a little bit of Kaun Banega Crorepati, but the Kashmiri version, Kos Bani Kosur Crorepet Pert. I can't say it right. So we'll listen out for some sounds. All right. So let's get started. All right. So first, I want to talk about this book here called The Memory Code. I can't get it to be any larger than that. So what am I learning from this right now? I'm finding it quite fascinating for purposes of thinking about Kashmir. So I've been there 4 times. My 2 good friends are from there. One is living there, one's in Mumbai. And when I think about Kashmiri society, and I think about how they organize their society, whether it is land rights, obviously that would be under the Constitution, but a lot of it comes under cultural practices and norms. And so the Memory Code, Dr. Lynn Kelly did something quite amazing. She started looking at how did oral history and oral societies before language, or groups now that don't use writing very much. Again, I'm not saying Kashmiris do this. I'm just going to extract from this. She looks at how did they memorize things. And a lot of them were based on the land. So some of you might know memory palaces and stuff like this. I don't like to get into that too much because it's like a cult of memory and how much can I memorize? And it's really stupid to me. But anyways, how did people remember things? Well, if you think about the stories, you would think of people saying, well, that one person knows our history, or that one memory keeper knows our generations of this, or that person knows all of the medicine for blah, 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 blah. And if you think of India and Kashmir, a lot of times they have traditional healing methods, things like this, a lot of things that are held in memory by certain, hakims or something. Where am I going with this? In traditional societies, especially before writing, and even now, they remember using the land itself. How? Well, one is by coding, like this hill, thinking about the land and memorizing. We're talking classifications of birds, what things are poisonous, what are not, things like that. Also, could be religious things, but what's right, what's ethical between people. People would memorize these things. They didn't have books. And they would do it by looking at the land. And as they traveled through the land, they would code things to the land, right? Or in their house or their living area, they would code things by that, right? We've heard of memory palaces and like how you make a palace, you walk through it and you put all the information there. And as you walk through, you can retrieve it. It seems to be hardwired into what it is to be human. But step back for a second and think what that means. So Dr. Lynn Kelly started doing some of these things, and she did them in her home. Well, she said something interesting. She said, I can never move from my home because my home is my library. By walking through it, I remember everything. Now think of land. We have all known, if you're not from a traditional society, I'm not. I've only been around people that are from that, or I've watched movies, things like that. What do you hear? When we left the land, we forgot. Tell me if you haven't heard that before. The Kashmiris I know are very tied to the land they're from. And what do you think of when you think of that? You think of stories. Stories, right? Oh, at that place this happened. And sometimes we're like, well, that doesn't make sense. That's not scientific or historic. A lot of times these things are all meshed together and it's a way of remembering. And I am not making judgments on Kashmiri society to say this is the way it is. But what I want to do as I start to learn more about my friends' land and how they remember things, I want to start thinking about this and listening to what they're really saying. Like, for instance, the last time I was there, Laldaid is a Shaivite, meaning follower of Shiva before Islam, I believe, before Islam in Kashmir. She was a poet, and she's still celebrated today in largely Muslim Kashmir. My friend's mom said, oh, I think she actually turned Muslim in her mind, but she started telling stories. We said, who is Laldaid? She started talking about, oh, there's a field, and Laldaid is from there. And now that's not how I would describe Laldaid, right? But that's how she describes it. She describes the location. And these things are sparking off thoughts inside my head that I'm like, this is really making sense, especially as we think about like the Vedas or Zoroastrianism. They also memorized, the Vedas were not written down from what we call Hinduism now. They were oral. And a lot of times Brahmins today are reciting without knowing. Well, this is also in Islam. So most of the Muslims in the world don't know Arabic. I even know some, I actually pray sometimes that Allahu Akbar, la ilaha illallah. I'll say this myself, Kul hu Allahu ahad, Allahu samad, lam yalid wa lam yulad wa lam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. It just, that's how I do because I've been around Muslims a lot and I can pray that way, but I don't know what it really means because I don't speak Arabic, right? Well, most Muslims don't speak Arabic, but they memorized the whole Quran. Hafiz means you've memorized the whole Quran. They also use these methods, right? So also in Kashmir, there are after Bukhari, goat Eid, they will sacrifice a goat, which in Western society, we would just say that we slaughtered a goat and we're going to eat it. Just like at Thanksgiving in the US, we slaughter a turkey and eat it, right? They would say sacrifice. So they sacrifice a goat, meaning, and then they divide it and they pass it out to friends. And I've commented before to them, well, why don't you just keep the goat? You probably get the goat back when you trade, right? But what are they doing? They are, and this is from Islam, they are passing out to their loved ones and they are making connections, right? But there are other traditions in Kashmir, like coming together for weddings, land distribution, huge in Kashmir, land distribution. And I want to know more about this, but they are not a very hierarchical society in Kashmir, not way different from the rest of India, from India. I don't usually classify Kashmir as India, but that's a political thought, and you can say in Kashmir is in India or not. I don't care. For me, I just say India and Kashmir. But for India, it's a highly stratified society. Kashmir is not as much, and there's not as much difference in what people make. Now, I'm not saying that there's not rich and poor, but it's less stratified. And overall, it's a wealthier society when compared to the rest of South Asia. Why? Because of land distribution. That's from their constitution, but it's also from their culture. What is their culture? It's a smallholder culture. Our family has a big house that we all live on, and we have this land. What other cultures are like this? Well, how about ancient Israel? And didn't Kashmiris say that they also have Israelites, Jews or Hebrews came to Kashmir, all this stuff? Well, there is some similarity in that. There's a smallholder society. And what is a smallholder society? Meaning, in families that own land instead of these big tracts of land that people just work on. More homogeneity, people being more the same. Where does this come from? This comes from a culture that's passed down from elders that had a reason why they did it that way. And if I'm in Kashmir, how do I find out? Anytime I ask things, they'll go, I'll ask an elder. This person knows that. Oh, we don't remember those things, but these people do. These are the things that I recognize from this book. And I'm like, I need to understand this better in order to better understand Kashmiri society. Now, I've gone on for a long time. I would love to hear your comments. I would love to hear your thoughts. I'm actually going to cut here and I'll come back and we'll go over the sounds, the phonetics. And again, Kashmiri speakers, I need your help. Please contact me via DM or in the comments here. All right, so I will see you next time. Tell me what you think about the memory code or what I've talked about. I will post the video of Lynn Kelly in the comment or in the description. Make sure to look at that and tell me what you think. I'd like to hear from you. Okay, I'll see you in part 2. Hi everyone, welcome to RJK English. Make sure to like and subscribe, and that will help me make more of these videos. I'm on YouTube and on Instagram, and see us on Facebook, and we can talk further.